Hello everybody, and it's Annette Densham here today with the Obsessed live show, our lunchtime edition. Sarge and I were just talking about how it is lunchtime, but we're not going to eat because we're going to let you feast at the table of reality personality. So I have with me today the incredible Sarge Jamieson. Nobody knows him as Derek, so Sarge is okay. Sarge is a Brizzy boy. He grew up in Caboolture. He joined the army at 17. Oh, my God, so young. I've got a 20-year-old. He served for 20 years with deployments to East Timor and Afghanistan. He is a really passionate personal trainer, and he's run marathons. He's an Ironman and park runs. I'm glad I'm sitting down because I feel really tired now. And he was on 7 Year Switch back in 2017, which is what we're going to talk about today. Sarge, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Annette. No, great to be here. Absolutely. So,
yeah. So tell me, let's just get right into it. So,
yep.
You know, there's reality TV shows are almost a dime a dozen now, aren't they? Like there's almost no other TV being made. So what made you go on to 7 Year Switch and give us a little bit of idea of what for those who didn't watch it, what the show was about?
Well, the show itself is about, there was 4 couples and they were all in a little bit of trouble with their relationships, sort of wanting to know which way to go. Did they want to work on it? Did they maybe want to split up? And so there's a big fallacy about 7 Year Switch. I saw it posted around a bit here, there. Some of the couples weren't even together for 7 years, but 7 Year Switch is based off the 7 year itch, which is the average time that a couple might start doubting their relationship. And so some of those couples, it might be 20 years, and some of those couples, it might be 2 years. So regardless of whether a couple has done 7 years or not, that's regardless. It's more about when you start doubting whether you should be within that relationship or not. So this show takes on that, and then what it does is it switches the partners around. So my partner at the time and I were quite different, quite opposites, and they switched us with another couple that were kind of opposite to us. So when we did switch, I ended up with a woman who was very much like myself, and my partner ended up with a guy like a lot more like herself. And it was basically to test the waters and see, would you prefer to be with a partner who's opposite to you and the difficulties that arise from that, or would you prefer to be with a partner more like yourself?
And
so yeah,
what was the outcome?
Why did I do it? Well, we'll get to the outcome, I reckon. I think we should do it chronologically.
Okay, we'll work up to. Here's me. I just want to jump to the end. Tell me. Okay, so why did you do it?
For those who don't know, I actually met the partner from that show. I'd met her 3 years previous, and she'd only just herself come off of another reality TV show, The Bachelor, when I met her. So that show was still airing when I met her, and I thought, well, I mean, she was obviously very attractive, and when I realized that was something that she'd just been on, I was feeling pretty chuffed about myself, thinking, I've just started dating a bachelorette. So, and she was on the front cover of some magazines and things like that. And we'd be out to lunch or out in public, and guys were coming up and asking to sign the front cover of the magazine and things like that. So, that was just all part and parcel, and it was something that I wasn't afraid of. I was, it was good fun. And then fast forward a couple of years, I'd moved to Victoria for a year to be with her and start a boot camp business together. And then we ended up back in Brisbane a year later. And then one day she says, do you want to go on this TV show? And I had a little bit of a look at it, and I was a bit like, well, realistically, you've already been on one reality TV show. There's not much chance you're going to get on another one. So I said, yeah, let's do it, and we'll apply for it. And then when it started to get a little bit more serious, it was a bit like, all right, well, this is going to be very personal within our relationship. It was going to delve deep into what was going wrong with our relationship, also the things that were going right with our relationship as well, but the balance was starting to get in the negative. and it had to do with psychologists as well. So obviously, basically marriage guidance counselling on the show. So so that was all a part of it, and I decided from my first reason for doing it was I wanted to fix my relationship. The second reason that I wanted to go on this TV show, which was going to run for 2 or 3 months, was being ex-army and being diagnosed with PTSD. I wanted to try and get the word out to Australia and those that were watching, especially the wives and girlfriends of ex-soldiers, or any guy or any girl for that matter that might have PTSD, what it's like to live with someone with PTSD and how I manage it, and the support that I get from my partner and my friends at the time, and I wanted to try and get that point across as well. Unfortunately, I think most of that ended up on the editing floor. And then the third reason was we were running a boot camp business together, and try and get a little bit of airtime on TV to get so people around the country, around Brisbane, will get to know us. That's always going to be a little bit of what someone's going on reality TV for these days.
Yeah, so it's a pathway to publicity, and I guess it's a really great way for people to get to know what you're like, isn't it? Because when you're on a reality TV show, they're showing who you are. Now, I guess that's another question is what we're seeing on TV, what is actually happening? What's the process to filming a reality TV show, and how much can we believe that what we're seeing is true?
Well, I mean, all these reality TV shows, they've all got a different structure to them. They're always looking for a different outcome. Some are competitions where they're looking to try and win money, Survivor or The Bachelor, or those ones are all about competition. And then there's other ones. The ones we did was more about trying to fix our relationship, and the fact that there's going to be plenty of other relationships out there in society that were going very similar ways. And there was 4 different couples, so every couple had their own issues. Some of the couples had children as well involved. So these are all issues that realistically the TV show was supposed to try and delve deep into with the psychologists on the show. It's kind of like supposed to be like a snapshot of how a married couple having issues might have to go and see a marriage guidance counsellor and go through the steps of trying to either fix their relationship or maybe part ways if that depends on what's going to be more beneficial for each individual. So saying that, reality TV, sometimes the only reality is the fact that the people are themselves, but then there's a lot of filming that gets done, and then there's a lot of film that ends up on the editor's floor. And sometimes, well, quite more often than not, really, what doesn't go on the show actually changes the way that people are perceived, the way that the broader public would view a particular person on screen, and it's not necessarily they really are. So.
I have a friend who was also on a reality TV show, AJ Rochester. So she was on The Biggest Loser. Yeah. And I remember seeing a post from her a couple of weeks ago with someone who was complaining about how they'd been on this reality TV show and they'd positioned that person to look like a bitch. And she went, You know what? If you're a bitch to start with, then that's what's going to come across. But if you're not, you treat the crew with respect, then they're going to show you in the best light. Was that your experience? Did they show you in the best light?
Honestly, I don't think so. And the thing with my show was that, and I think with most reality TV shows, is the characters or the talent that the production crew call, obviously the people being filmed with talent. I don't know how talented we were, but we don't see what happens and the way we're edited until it goes on national TV. So we're actually viewing it at the same time as everybody else. Well, that was what happened with 7 Year Switch. So we were finding out the way we were edited, and I can tell you that the 8 people or the 4 couples in my show, they all got labelled a certain way, and I know that I was labelled as a controller. It might have had something to do with the fact that 1, I'm the guy in the relationship. 2, I'm ex-army sergeant. And 3, my partner was labelled basically a loner, because I'm more of an extrovert and she was more of an introvert, and I like to go out and socialise, and she liked to spend most of the time behind closed doors, and that isn't really who we were at all. I'm definitely far from being controlling. My recent personality test that I've just done shows that I'm actually quite the opposite. So it's amazing what editing can do to make a person look entirely different.
Oh, absolutely. Because how can you do hours and hours and hours of filming and really convey what a human being is really like in, 24 minutes or however long the show actually is without ads that we have to sit through?
Absolutely. Yep. Sorry.
I was going to
talk about an instance that happened. For instance, something that was omitted from the show that made a lot of difference. So on the show, each of us were given $100 to go and buy our partner, our actual real partner, a gift to show them how much we loved them, how much we cared for them, and how much we knew them. So I went and I bought my partner some dog tags because we met via boot camp, and had printed on them, engraved on them, like my 3 sergeant stripes and the date that we first started dating, which I thought was a nice gift. Obviously, that didn't cost $100, so I got her some stuff from the body shop and things like that. A day or two later, when we received gifts from our partner, I ended up with a $100 G-string, a size 10 red lacy G-string. And I definitely wasn't going to fit into that. And as we were being filmed and I took it out and I was looking at it, I said to my switch partner, Tracy, I said, I totally understand what my partner's trying to say here. She's trying to say she wants to be a bit more sexy. She wants to be a bit more intimate. She wants to enjoy our time together more and all that sort of stuff. And I said that. And then I also said, but I can't help but think that she's taken an opportunity to spend $100 on herself. And then the note that she wrote with it was that you'll get your real present when we get home. So, you can sort of take it either way. However, when it got aired on TV, they totally removed the first part, and that just had me saying, I think she's taken the opportunity to spend $100 on herself. And then when it comes to social media, I got absolutely crucified. So many of the haters out there, or even just normal people, were like, oh, I can't believe that you didn't see the sentiment behind what she said and what she did and the gift for you. Like, so many men would have totally enjoyed that gift and all that sort of stuff, understanding the meaning behind it. I totally got the meaning behind it, but I also understood that there was quite a possibility that she just decided to spend that money on herself as well. So,
yeah, that's really unfortunate because because it's not the truth. But do you think that the people watching are a little naive and a little gullible and just accepting of whatever's served up to them?
I think it's like when you watch a movie, I don't know how deep you get into a movie, but when things happen and you side with somebody, you side with the good guy, or you might side with the bad guy or girl or whoever, and you start to feel the energy. You start to feel, oh, I really hate that person for what they did, or like that person or whatever. So when things get edited a certain way, then it's like, then obviously, you feel like you want to side with a person, and you go, oh, I really like that person, and I really don't like the way that their partner's treating them, or this or that, even though it's not real. Well, at least it's reality in the point that things do happen, but they do get edited in a way where you can be seen to look one way and you're really trying to act another way, just with what gets omitted. And all of a sudden, there's this big window of opportunity for a lot of viewers out there to go on social media and say what they want to say about it, whether they want to hurt you, whether they're just hurting themselves and they feel like putting you down, or putting the person who was on the show down to make themselves feel better, and a lot of hate speech, a lot of inciting hate speech online. And I just don't think that a real normal person who has their head screwed on the right way is going to take the time to create a lot of these people create alias accounts, so on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever. So literally so that they can just go in and just say derogatory things, nasty things to people to put them down. And it's, I just don't think that normal people do that.
No, I agree with you. I don't think so either. I think that social media is such a wonderful communication device, but like all good things can be used for really negative consequences. So for you, the repercussions were that you went in with the best intentions. You had this partner that you cared about, that you loved. You wanted to find a way to, work through that 7-year itch, but also, to get a little bit of publicity for what you're doing together. But you ended up being slammed and almost victimized.
Yeah, look, and, it's for the mainstream people, for those people that knew me before and they watched the show, I got so many messages from them. And then a lot of just normal people that have a lot of empathy, they personally messaged me just to say, hey, look, we can see what you're going through. That must be terrible. We could see what was happening on the show, and that wasn't you. That was edited in a way to make you look not really you. And those people, they don't particularly want to go onto the public forum to defend me, because if there's all these people out there that are hate speeching, then all the nice people, they don't want to get caught up in that. They just want to approach you privately and just say, look, I really feel for you, just hang in there. All these people that are commenting, they don't really know the real you. And those that did take the opportunity, those that are a little bit more extrovert or a little bit more opinionated, they would go into bat for me, and then straight away they'd just get shot down. And the thing is, like, these are people that have no idea who I am, and they have no idea who my partner was, and they don't know the actual dynamics in our real relationship, because the show didn't show everything. There were certain things that we didn't talk about, that we didn't want to cross. One of the things that the show asked us before we went on air was, what boundaries do we have? And we talked about boundaries. We talked about boundaries on air, but we also talked about boundaries off air, and the things that we didn't want to talk about. So my partner didn't want to talk about our sex life. So I really tried to respect that and not talk about our sex life. And it wasn't until the show aired that I then found out that she actually talked about our sex life 3 times that I didn't really know about. Well, I knew about one of them because my switch partner came back and told me after dinner they all had that she'd actually been talking about our sex life. And I was like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. So
where's those boundaries? When you signed up for the show, I mean, like, there's a difference between expectation and reality. When they're pitching it to you and they're saying, look, this is what we're going to do, this is what the outcome is going to be, it almost seems like they're a little dishonest in how they position that with you.
Funny. So I really bonded with production crew. The executive producer was actually someone who I hadn't met before, but a close friend of mine from years and years ago had actually worked with her on a few different other shows like Big Brother and Farmer Wants a Wife and White Collar Blue and stuff, shows like that. So I knew who she was. The other girl that turned up was a girl called Brie, who was on, I think, the second Big Brother. So after she'd done Big Brother, like 10 years prior, she'd gotten a job in TV behind the scenes as a producer, and she was the other girl that turned up, and I was a little bit fangirly, I guess, because I remember watching Brie. I think Sarah with the bum dance was on that particular. Was on that Big Brother as well.
Great. So can you imagine how much shit Sarah would cop now if she was on a reality TV show? She would just be decimated.
Yeah, well, probably. So, but yes, it's kind of, they're very good at editing things. So it's not what they said. They didn't lie. It wasn't like flat out lying. So, we're going to turn you into movie stars. We're going to turn you into TV stars. You can be Sam Frost and you can go and do Home and Away after this. Like, it was all just very coercive, and basically they didn't say the things they didn't need to say. So that was at the top level. My production crew, my producer followed me around through the whole my whole side of the show. So when you do the switch, so my girlfriend and I, we got filmed for about for a week or so before we split ways, and we went down to Sydney, and then we had to hold up in hotel rooms all across Sydney. All 8 of the people were all separated, and we couldn't talk to each other, and we just had to do our own thing. But I used to live in Sydney, so I actually bumped into a few friends of mine down Bondi Beach, so that was pretty cool. And then, yeah, we go into our houses, and then we got to meet our switch partners, and Tracy was amazing. She was such an awesome person to switch with, because her personality and my personality were very, very similar. We were both the partners. So my partner and her partner were the 2 that actually wanted to go on the show, brought it to our attention and asked us if we wanted to go on the show. And it's not like we said no, and it's not like we, got dragged on the show kicking and screaming. We did agree to go on the show with them, but we've talked about it since. I only talked to Tracy last week, and we're still good friends, so we still communicate and check up on each other and make sure that we're okay. And yeah, both of our partners had ulterior motives of why they wanted to go to on the show, and it wasn't necessarily for our relationship. So, and that was a bit of pill to swallow. So, but with the production crew, yeah, my producer, she followed me to Sydney, and then when we switched, she stayed with me and Tracy for the 3 weeks that we were together, and then followed me back up and continued to film when I got back with my partner. And so she was there for my entire journey, and she never told me I had to say what I had to say. There was no scripting for us. There was other people on the show that were scripted, like the psychologists, for instance. But we were never scripted. But we did have a storyline to follow, and if we sort of went off storyline, we were politely instructed to get back on the storyline and then reshoot. So even though we're not scripted, we were we did have to follow a certain storyline.
There was the production value behind it. So I guess the reality is it's got nothing to do with reality. So what were the repercussions for you, Sarge? I mean, like, I imagine copping all of that negativity and hate, there is negative effects on your mental health.
Look, there is. And the fact that I already knew I had PTSD, and these things PTSD comes from something that's happened in your life that's quite tragic or quite negative, and then it's a big struggle on how to get out of that. I mean, even things like postnatal depression is a form of PTSD, when the birth of a child and everything turns upside down, and you really struggle to know what to do and where to get help from and things like that. So as soon as, we didn't have social media, so we filmed the show over it was November, December, had a little break over Christmas, and then came back and did a little bit more filming in January. And the show didn't air until the end of March, start of April. So there was a couple of months that we, and funnily enough, Stacey and I, my partner, were still together right through till the show was airing. And there was a lot of anxiety around the show, especially when it was airing and things didn't look the way that we were hoping they would look. Things got edited in a way where it made us not look like very favorable, or made us look like monsters, or created controversy. So and yeah, it really started to play on us. And at the same time, like the day that the show started airing, we basically were allowed to turn on our social media. So we all started up our Instagram pages and turned our Facebook back on. And Facebook for me is just for my friends. There's not a lot of people on my Facebook account I've never actually met and don't know. So most of those people are actually friends and like me. So whereas Instagram was a way for people that you didn't know to get in touch with you, or follow you. Maybe they have similar things happening in life and they wanted to, So our Instagram pages built up quite quickly. The girls way more quicker than the guys. I think that's just a normal thing with social media. And yeah, it started from minute one. I think actually started before that, because the TV commercials didn't necessarily paint people in a good light. So everyone thought that I have massive OCD with the way I pack my fridge. So I wouldn't say massive OCD. I'd say there's places in your fridge for certain things, like the vegetable crisper and the cheese, where the cheese goes and things like that. But I'm not a Nazi when it comes to fridges. And then, yeah, when the TV commercials come on, all of a sudden I'm a fridge Nazi and copying and pounding for just the small things. So
yeah, but which are innate in your personality, especially having been through, the Defence Forces. There's training and there's discipline and there's
yep.
A way to do things, and obviously
yep.
they didn't explore that. I'm gobsmacked constantly by how nasty people can be. How did you deal with it? Like, did you have to shut your social media down again? Or how did you deal with it? Did you get counselling? Was there support from the program on how to navigate post-show?
Good question. So there was actually counselling provided by the show. We had, I think it was like five sessions, I think, maybe a few more. And now I've got my own psychologist already. I've had that since I was diagnosed with PTSD, and that's how I went through that. And my psychologist has been with me for years and 3 relationships. So he's pretty good. He knows when I'm high, like, on a high on life, or if so that's a good thing. But the show actually provided us. There was psychologists on the show, but they were scripted. They were basically actors, and so they came in when we were going to film. They left after they finished filming, and we really didn't get much time to talk to them behind the scenes or face to face, or get any, get to ask them any questions about what they thought were, the deep dark secrets, or the what was happening with our relationship. So we didn't get much help there. Unfortunately, the psychologist that we went and saw, I really don't think helped very much. I wouldn't have gone back and seen that psychologist if I was left to my own devices. However, it was the one that Channel 7 basically gave us, so we had to go there. And it felt like a bash session, really, because it was both my partner and I. And and I will say this too, my partner and I didn't stay together, and actually none of the couples from that TV show are still together. So, which is a bit sad considering there's a few children involved. So, however, it's probably best this way. And so we broke up a few weeks before the show finished airing, and she'd already moved out, and I already got a new flatmate in by the time that the last episode aired. Throughout that whole debacle, social media was just, it was half and half. Like, it was half supportive and half not supportive. But the supportive side basically just was like, yeah, we understand what you're going through. Thank you for highlighting certain things in relationships and things like that. And that was really cool. But then the other side, which was just so dark and so hateful, and that it just plays such a big part. Like, it's not an even distribution of your feelings. Like, oh yeah, half of it feels good and the other half feels sad or unhappy or angry. That half that was angry was so detrimental to mental health that I could see in my own ex-partner at the time that she was, and she wasn't really doing us any favors either. She was basically going on, like, acting more like a victim. I mean, it's not saying that we weren't sort of victims, but maybe victims of our own circumstance. I mean, we agreed to go on the show, so we knew there was going to be some sort of repercussions. However, is that the ice cream man? Could do with an ice cream.
No, it's my alarm telling me it's lunchtime. I've got to turn it off.
Fair enough. So, and I know that she was on her social media basically saying, kind of doing the sympathy posts, basically saying, look, I've been through this and things are really bad at the moment, but I'm woman, hear me roar. And half the people commenting on her social media were like, we support you, Stacey. We'll look out, we'll look out for you, this and that. And that was really lovely. But the other half were literally just going on there saying, Stacey, you're so much better off without Sarge. He's a narcissist. He's a douchebag. He's this, he's that, all these way negative words. And she was going through and actually liking those comments and basically inciting more hate speech. And I had to call her up and ask her to please to stop doing that. And she said that she wasn't going to stop doing that because it made her feel good. And I'm like, but yeah, you feeling good by inciting all these other people out there, which are already hating. They're already messaging me, telling me how much they hate me. They're also going on to yours, telling you how much how much better you are without me and things like that. And this is all based off of a reality TV show where the reality of lives wasn't really there. It was all edited in a way where, we were not, that wasn't really how it went. So that was so bad. Seriously, that was so bad.
Look, I can't even imagine because I've never had to deal with hate on that level before. And I was just thinking that, like, given your service, 20 years serving overseas, and you've probably seen some things that, again, I can't even imagine. How does that compare to having that hate thrown at you? At least when you're defending a nation or defending that there's a purpose. But when someone's attacking you on an ongoing basis, how do you manage that in your own head?
Well, look, it's different. You go to war, and I've been to a few conflict areas, and it's not here in Australia so much. We're going to somebody else's country and trying to, we're in their homeland, and so as much as it was more about terrorism, and we don't agree with that, and it's really only a small minority of for instance, Afghanistan, the small minority that are shooting at us. The large majority actually were happy we were there, and my role over there as a tradesman and that was to actually help build infrastructure like schools and health clinics and things like that. So I never shot at anybody, but I definitely didn't want to go outside the wire without having my rifle with me to defend myself and obviously my mates. So, but you understand the situation when it's here and it's your own community that are basically throwing hate at you, and you can't even reason with these people, because I tried to reason with some of them by defending myself and saying, look, that's not how it went. This is actually how. They don't care. They just want to get a response from you, and then it just eggs them on even more, and they just throw even more. And they don't make sense. They're not speaking realistically, and they're not speaking. They're not making any sense. And so to try and reason with someone like that, I quickly learnt that it was just not worth it. However, those that did support me, the thing that kept getting said to me, which was these people don't know you, and the people that do know you take their word for it. The people that can see through the bullshit, they're the ones that you need to listen to. And if a few of these people that don't know you decide they want to hate it, it's actually because they hate their own lives, and they need to put other people down to make themselves feel better. But how long does that last for? Because I can tell you, these people, as soon as the TV show was over, and after a few weeks, they move on to the next reality TV show, or the next person to hate. Or, I mean, even our sports stars in Australia, they drop a ball, drop a catch, like something goes wrong and they make a mistake, and they get absolutely crucified on their social media by all these armchair sports heroes that think that they can do better, or think that they would have perform better in that situation. Like, these people have no idea what they're talking about, yet they feel the need to go and say all this, and it's just terrible. Seriously, I'm a massive advocate against hate speech and online bullying. It's just wrong.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm with you totally, because I see these people who are attacking others. Because, like you said, because there's something that they hate about themselves. And like, it always reminds me of that saying is, it's like they're hating on you and expecting you to die, but they're drinking their own poison, but they're still inflicting you with that poison themselves. And I kind of just never understand. Like, it used to be that when we have people who put themselves out there, like sports people, politicians, people on TV, it's because they've worked hard to get to where they want to be. They're driven by a passion, by a purpose. They've studied hard, they've worked hard. And, when we try and drag them down, we really just kind of underpinning how little we've done ourselves. And when I say we, I'm not talking about you and I'm
of course
generalizing, of course. Sarge, look, we're going to wrap up, but
Yep.
Would you ever go on a reality TV show again?
It would have to be something that wasn't, or that if something that can be taken out of context, no, absolutely not. If it was something that was, so not so much reality TV for sure. If it was something that was going to help the community, help society, absolutely. If it was something that was bringing out issues like I said, I suffered from PTSD. If it was something talking about that was actually going to help the community rather than just get ratings from controversy and things like that, then yeah, I'd do that. But not when things can be taken out of context and it's not really you. So that's
you're a bit more savvy now.
A lot more savvy. And how's this? So I met my previous partner that we did the show with from as soon as she come off The Bachelor. I believe The Bachelor actually premieres tonight, and it just so happens that another one of my friends is going to be a bachelorette on the show. So she only released that to the public 2 days ago. So I am fully supporting her. I hope that she doesn't get, absolutely slammed on social media, because if something happens on the show where she gets made to look a bit bitchy or this or that, it might not necessarily be the way that it was actually truly happened on the show, and just edit in a certain way. So I've got her back, and if she never needs to talk to me or anybody else that's been on socials, on a reality TV show that's still copping a lot, I'm definitely out there to have a chat with them and let them know that, it's not them.
You're there.
Yeah.
And for our viewers, is that with anything, with media, with reality TV, with social media, don't believe everything that's put in front of your face, because someone always has an agenda, and it may not necessarily be in your best interest, and it may be just for their own interest. Sarge Jamieson, thank you so much for sharing your story. Like, what a ride that you've been on, and like, my hat off to you, because you've very openly shared, and you're obviously really passionate about supporting and helping other people. You're a top bloke.
Cheers, Annette. Thank you, and thanks for having me on Obsessed Hub. It's been a pleasure.